And so we'll be starting with the pastoral call. So if the Holy Spirit has been telling you, Pastor, of recent, please listen attentively. The pastoral call is the shepherd's call, and the pastoral call is the call to love. It's the call to love God's people unconditionally and to ensure that God's people love themselves. This is the first essential of the pastoral call. Pastoral call is a call of love, to love God's people unconditionally and to ensure that God's people love themselves. And that's why you see that in the pastoral call, the pastor knows his people. He knows most of his members by name. You can see a little child running and you say, okay, this is so church member's child. He knows his church members. He knows their children. Sometimes he even knows the school the children go to. He knows where his church members work. He knows the handwork of his church members. This is the pastoral call. He knows the houses of most of his church members. This is the pastoral call. The call of love, to love God's people unconditionally and to ensure that God's people love themselves. And that's why if you're not in church one of the Sundays, the next thing is a call from your pastor. Oh, brother, so and so, you are not in church today. Hope there's no problem. It's the call of love, to love God's people selflessly. This is also brother is not feeling fine, he's in the hospital, and the next thing, the pastor is by the hospital bed. Can we share a word of prayer together? It's the pastoral call. This member just got an accident. Before you know, the pastor is organizing members that will go and visit this person. Before you know it, the pastor is already raising funds. Let's have an offering, or let's have a donation to aid in the treatment of this brother. It's a call to love God's people unconditionally. You know, I had a friend then whose father was a pastor, and he would say during Thanksgiving they could have like say 3 chickens and say 15 tubers of yam. And at the end of that service, they will only go home with maybe 1 chicken and 2 tubers of yam. Look, at the end of service, he will say, okay, come with that widow. Oh, madam, take 1 chicken and take 5 tubers of yam. Oh, that man just lost his job. Please call him. Take 1 chicken, take 5 tubers of yam. Oh, assistant pastor, oh, you take this one. At the end of the day, they barely go home with maybe 2 tubers of yam and maybe 1 chicken. Sometimes no chicken. So the pastoral call is a call to selfless love, to love God's people selflessly. Love God's people and to ensure that God's people love themselves. To create programs to see that God's people love themselves. To create units and fellowships to ensure that God's people love themselves. This is the first essential to the pastoral call. And the second essential to the pastoral call is that the pastoral call is committed to see that he raises greatness amidst his congregation, that he raises great people in his congregation. This is the second essential to the pastoral call. He's committed to see that he raises greatness, especially in the political and governmental sphere. But it is the second essential of the pastoral call to raise greatness out of his people. And that's why when a pastor notices that probably a young person in his church is now a photographer, he will now say, okay, no one should hire a photographer to the church again. Let this brother do all the photographing for Thanksgivings and everything in the church. He's trying to support that brother into greatness. He goes to any function and says they need a caterer. He knows that member that is a caterer, and he will always say, okay, I have a caterer. He's always ensuring that he gives that caterer every job he hears about, and even telling members to support that caterer. So the second essence of the pastoral call is that he is devoted to see that he raises greatness out of his people, both business-wise, academically, and especially in the governmental sphere. To support people, nurture people, grow their minds and grow their understanding and grow their influence even into government. Some of the essentials, the second essential of the pastoral call. And so quickly we go into the weaknesses of the pastoral call. So if you're hearing the pastoral call, please listen attentively. The weakness of the pastoral call, number one, is that anyone called to the pastoral call should be watchful of the love of money. The first one is the love of money. The second one is arrogance. Arrogance. Pride and arrogance. This is the second weakness of the pastoral call. And then the third weakness of the pastoral call is that he himself wants to now leave his call and go into government. Because at the height of the pastoral call is influence even in the government sphere. That this particular characteristics of the pastoral is not for those just starting, but at the height of the pastoral call is high influence in the society, high influence in the community, and even high influence in government. This is the height of the pastoral call. And at that point, one of the weaknesses is that the pastor may want to drop his call and then go into government because of the influence he now has. And most times this is not God's leading. Sometimes there may be few instances where this may be the leading of the Holy Spirit to liberate that region, but a lot of times it's not God's assignment for that person. It's just you're supposed to raise people who are strong enough to sit in those positions, not to sit in them yourself. And so these are the three weaknesses to be watchful of if you're hearing the call of the pastoral call. Number one weakness is the love of money. You need to watch the love of money. Number two, you need to watch arrogance, prideful arrogance. Well, because everybody respects you and sees you as their father, even those older than you call you their father, and then this prideful arrogance that you can talk to people as you like. So you have to be watchful of that. And thirdly, you have to be watchful when you climb to that height where you have powerful influence in the society and in government, to not abandon your call and begin to pursue leadership, governmental leadership and secular leadership. So this is so if you're called to the pastoral call, watch out for these three things, and do not forget the two essentials mentioned for the pastoral call as a call of love, to love God's people unconditionally and to ensure that God's people love each other. And the second essential is that to raise greatness out of the people God has given unto you. These are the two essentials, and then we mentioned three weaknesses which you should be mindful of. So stay tuned and watch out for our expositions on the teaching call, the prophetic call, the apostolic call, the evangelic call. God bless you.